Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting and mind-blowing episode where we dive deep into the world of rare and mysterious coins that have turned simple pocket change into treasures worth unimaginable amounts of money. Today, we're going to uncover the incredible story of a coin that has stunned collectors and historians alike, a coin that most people would overlook at first glance, but one that could hold the key to a fortune beyond belief. We're talking about the 1975 1-cent Liberty coin, also known as the 1975 Lincoln Penny, a humble copper coin from the Denver Mint that has been rumored and documented by some collectors to be worth as much as $268 million. That's right, a single 1-cent coin, worth a fraction of a dollar, carrying a value that rivals rare diamonds and priceless works of art. How can something so ordinary turn out to be so extraordinarily valuable? The answer lies in the fascinating world of minting errors, hidden mistakes, and rare production anomalies that make this coin one of the most mysterious and talked about pennies in numismatic history. When we think about American coins, few are as iconic as the Lincoln cent. Since 1909, the image of Abraham Lincoln has been proudly displayed on the front of the coin, symbolizing freedom, unity, and the enduring spirit of the United States. By 1975, the Lincoln penny had already seen decades of production, with billions of examples minted across the country. But as we know in the world of coins, even in the middle of perfection, mistakes can happen, and sometimes those mistakes turn out to be worth more than gold. The 1975 penny was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the busiest minting facilities in the world. In that year alone, hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents rolled off the presses, each bearing the small D mint mark under the date. Most of these coins were completely ordinary, destined for circulation in everyday transactions, buying candy, paying for postage, or getting handed back as change. But among those billions of coins, it's believed that a few special examples slipped through, coins that contained minting errors so rare, so bizarre, and so perfect in their imperfection that their existence defies logic. These are the coins that turn casual collectors into treasure hunters. To understand why a 1975 penny could reach a value as high as $268 million, we need to explore the types of minting errors that can occur and how they can drastically change a coin's value. Each coin starts its life as a blank metal disc known as a planchet. The planchets are fed into massive presses that strike the design onto both sides using steel dies. These dies are carefully engraved with the coin's details, Lincoln's portrait on the front, and the Lincoln Memorial on the back, at least until 2008, when the design changed. But in 1975, things were still done largely by hand, and that means there were plenty of opportunities for human error. One of the most fascinating and valuable types of minting errors is the wrong planchet error. This occurs when a coin is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination. Imagine a 1-cent design struck on a dime silver planchet, or a foreign coin blank. These coins would differ in color, weight, and sometimes even diameter. They can be identified by their metallic composition. For example, a 1975 penny struck on a 90% silver dime planchet would weigh around 2.5 grams instead of the standard 3.11 grams, and would appear lighter in color, more silver than copper. Because the U.S. Mint occasionally produced coins for foreign countries or switched between materials in the early and mid-1970s, it's entirely possible that such a planchet could have found its way into the wrong press at the Denver facility. If a coin like this were discovered, it would instantly attract worldwide attention. Such an anomaly wouldn't just be rare, it would be unique, perhaps the only one of its kind ever made. That kind of rarity drives prices into the stratosphere. For reference, the 1943 copper penny, struck in error when the mint was supposed to be using steel planchets, has sold for over $1 million. So if a 1975 penny struck on the wrong metal, with confirmed authenticity, were ever to be found, the combination of historical significance and rarity could easily make it worth hundreds of millions in the eyes of high-end collectors. But that's just one type of error. Another potential factor contributing to the incredible value of this coin involves doubled dies. A doubled die occurs during the creation of the dies themselves, when the image is impressed onto the die more than once, but slightly offset each time. The result is a coin where letters, numbers, or features appear to have a ghostly duplicate image. One of the most famous examples of this is the 1955 double-die penny, which shows dramatic doubling in the words Liberty and in God We Trust. That coin routinely sells for thousands of dollars, even in circulated condition. Now imagine a 1975 D penny that exhibits a similar doubling, or even something more dramatic, doubling not only on the date but across Lincoln's portrait, or the entire reverse. Add to that a repunched mint mark, where the D appears twice or in a slightly different position, and you have a combination that would send shockwaves through the collector community. The 1970s were a transitional period in minting technology, and the Denver Mint still applied mint marks manually at that time, so a repunched mint mark error is entirely possible. The most extraordinary errors often come from a combination of factors. Picture a scenario where the coin was struck with a doubled die, using the wrong planchet, and also showing a repunched mint mark. Such a coin wouldn't just be rare, it would be one of the rarest coins ever made, a once-in-a-century occurrence. It's these kinds of hypothetical yet possible situations that drive the excitement behind the rumored multimillion-dollar valuations. Another reason collectors place such enormous value on coins like the 1975 D penny is the condition factor. Coin grading plays a huge role in determining value. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, known as the Sheldon scale. A coin graded as MS-70 mint state 70 is considered perfect, no scratches, no blemishes, no wear, with full luster. Coins of this quality, especially if they are known errors or rare varieties, can reach astronomical values because they represent the absolute pinnacle of preservation. If one of these ultra-rare 1975 D-era pennies was discovered in perfect uncirculated condition, still glowing with its original copper-red luster, collectors would be willing to pay any price to own it. Beyond the minting errors and condition, there's another layer to this coin's mystique: the metal composition itself. In 1975, Lincoln cents were still made primarily from copper, composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. However, there are persistent rumors and occasional discoveries of coins from this era that were struck on experimental planchets. If, for example, a 1975 D penny was struck on a transitional alloy that the mint was testing for future production, perhaps a copper-plated zinc prototype like those that appeared officially in 1982, it would be a groundbreaking find. A transitional error of this nature would bridge two eras of American coinage and be of enormous historical significance. Now let's discuss die breaks and die cracks, another class of errors that can make coins valuable. When a die begins to wear out or develop fractures, those cracks transfer onto the coins as raised lines or blobs of extra metal. Sometimes, these cracks are small and barely noticeable. Other times, they create dramatic visual patterns across the coin's surface, sometimes forming shapes or lines that collectors find fascinating. In extreme cases, these errors create what are called cuds, large raised areas where part of the design is missing due to a piece of the die breaking off entirely. A 1975 D penny with a massive cut on Lincoln's head, or across the date, would immediately stand out, and could command a premium far beyond its face value. Let's also consider off-center strikes. These errors occur when the planchet isn't properly seated in the press, causing the design to be struck off-center. The further off-center the strike, the rarer and more valuable the coin, especially if the date and mint mark are still visible. A 1975 D penny that's 50% off-center, showing part of Lincoln's face and a crescent of blank copper, could easily be worth thousands. Combine that with another error, like a double strike or broad strike, and the value skyrockets even further. Some collectors also believe that the 1975 D penny might have been part of an undocumented experimental run, possibly struck with dies intended for another coin. There have been recorded cases in U.S. mint history where dies were mixed up or reused in error. Imagine a 1975 D penny accidentally struck using a die from a different denomination or a reverse die from a previous year. Such mismatched die pairs are incredibly rare and command prices that defy expectations. What truly pushes this coin into legendary status, though, is the combination of myth, rarity, and market demand. When collectors and investors believe that only one or two examples exist, the perceived value becomes limitless. The coin market thrives on rarity. It's not just about metal content, but about the story behind each coin. My great viewers, now in the second history, let's go to another incredible deep dive into the fascinating and mysterious world of rare coins, a world where a simple penny can become a priceless treasure, and where one small error at the US Mint can create a coin worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Now we're going to explore the unbelievable story of the 2007 1-cent Liberty coin, a humble coin that, according to expert collectors, rumor, and numismatic speculation, has reached a mind-blowing estimated value of 252 billion cents, or in dollar terms, around $252 million. That's right, a coin that was once worth just 1 cent, now potentially valued at hundreds of millions, not because it's made of gold or diamonds, but because of its extraordinary rarity, minting errors, and the mysteries that make it one of the most captivating coins in modern U.S. history. This story begins in 2007, a year that may seem quite ordinary in the timeline of American coinage, but one that holds far more secrets than most people realize. The 2007 Lincoln Penny, minted in Denver, was part of the final years of the long-running Lincoln Memorial design, which had been used since 1959. Millions upon millions of these coins were struck, each featuring Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the famous Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. At first glance, there's nothing unusual about this coin. It looks like every other penny in circulation, its copper-plated zinc composition giving it that familiar reddish shine. But as collectors know all too well, it's often the coins that appear the most ordinary that hide the greatest secrets. Among the billions of 2007 pennies, it is believed that a very small number were struck with unusual features, anomalies so rare and so extreme that they defy logical explanation. These coins, according to coin experts and reports from high-end numismatic circles, could contain minting errors, double strikes, and misaligned mint marks that make them unique. And in the coin world, uniqueness is everything. When there's only one known example of a coin with a particular kind of error, its value can skyrocket beyond comprehension. Let's start by exploring the kinds of errors that could make a 2007 penny worth such an extraordinary amount. The first and most obvious kind of error is the doubled die or doubled die error, one of the most famous in all of U.S. coinage. A doubled die occurs when the design on the die is impressed more than once at slightly different angles or positions, causing a doubling effect on the coin itself. The letters, numbers, and even parts of Lincoln's face can appear doubled or shadowed. Some of the most famous coins in American history, like the 1955 doubled die penny or the 1972 doubled die, owe their astronomical values to this single type of error. If a 2007 penny was discovered with a major doubled die, especially one where the doubling affects the date or the word liberty, it would instantly become one of the rarest and most sought-after modern coins. The combination of a modern date and an old-fashioned, dramatic error would make it a must-have piece for collectors all over the world. The minting technology in 2007 was highly advanced, so such an error would be extremely rare, possibly indicating a mechanical malfunction or an overlooked die flaw that went unnoticed in the fast-paced environment of the Denver Mint. But doubling isn't the only kind of error that could make this coin so valuable. Another highly sought-after type of error is the off-metal strike. This occurs when a coin is struck on a planchet meant for another denomination, or even another country's coinage. In 2007, the U.S. Mint produced coins for several foreign governments, as well as domestic coinage. That means there's a slim but real possibility that a 1-cent design was accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a dime, a foreign coin, or even an experimental alloy. Imagine a 2007 penny struck on a nickel planchet, or a foreign bronze blank intended for a South American coin. Such a coin would be lighter or heavier than usual, its color might be slightly different, and its composition would be unique. Because of that, collectors would see it as a one-of-a-kind treasure, literally a mistake that could never happen again. Next, we come to the fascinating subject of mint marks. In 2007, the mint mark D was still being used to represent the Denver Mint, and even though mint marks were no longer applied by hand as in earlier decades, small variances could still occur due to die polishing, re-engraving, or mechanical issues. A 2007 penny with a repunched mint mark where the D appears slightly doubled or displaced would already be rare. But if a mint mark appeared completely out of place, like rotated or partially missing, it could indicate a unique die error. These types of coins sometimes escape quality control because the error is so small, but once discovered, they become extremely valuable. In addition to doubled dies and misplaced mint marks, another fascinating possibility involves die cracks and cuds. As the dies used to strike coins wear down, they can develop small fractures that show up on the coin's surface as raised lines or lumps of extra metal. These are known as die cracks or cuds, depending on their size and location. Some collectors find these incredibly desirable, especially if the cracks form interesting patterns or shapes like a line running across Lincoln's head, which some call a cracked skull error, or a large blob of metal replacing part of the design. In extreme cases, these kinds of errors make the coin appear as if it's from another world, and their visual appeal can boost their price into the tens of thousands. Now, consider combining all these factors: a 2070 penny with a dramatic doubled die, an off-metal composition, and a repunched mint mark. That combination would create a coin so rare that no other like it would exist. The sheer impossibility of it, coupled with the fact that it's from a modern year, could push collectors and investors into a frenzy. Wealthy collectors often compete aggressively for coins that they believe are unique, regardless of their denomination or metal content. The price isn't based on intrinsic value, it's based on exclusivity, on the fact that owning it means having something absolutely no one else does. One of the great mysteries of the numismatic world is how these error coins manage to escape the mint in the first place. The U.S. Mint is known for its rigorous quality control procedures, especially in the modern era. Machines are designed to detect and reject coins with major flaws, yet errors still slip through occasionally. Some of these mistakes may occur during press maintenance, or when dies are replaced. Sometimes, a small batch of experimental coins may be struck for testing purposes, and a few examples accidentally find their way into circulation. These rare occurrences are what fuel the stories of modern coins worth millions, because even a tiny handful of survivors can be enough to shake the entire coin market. In the case of the 2070 penny, one possible explanation for its astronomical value could be a combination of errors that occurred during a brief and poorly documented test run at the Denver Mint. It's possible that a handful of coins were struck using leftover or experimental dies, or even dies that had been improperly prepared. If such coins were discovered later, especially in pristine condition, they would be unlike anything else in the hobby. Condition plays an equally vital role in determining value. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale, where MS-70 represents a flawless, mint state coin with no imperfections visible even under magnification. If a 2070 era penny were to surface in MS-70 condition, its value would soar exponentially. Imagine the only known example of a one-of-a-kind mint error, preserved in perfect, untouched condition since the day it was made. Auction houses would compete fiercely for the right to sell it, and bidders from around the world would push its price into the hundreds of millions. Another element that could make this coin uniquely valuable is its potential connection to transitional compositions. While 2007 pennies were officially copper-plated zinc, rumors persist of a few coins being struck on older copper planchets or experimental blanks. This would make sense if, for example, a few leftover planchets from a previous run were accidentally fed into the 2007 presses. A solid copper 2070 penny would weigh slightly more than the standard 2.5 grams, closer to the 3.11 grams of pre-1982 pennies. Such a discovery would immediately be hailed as one of the greatest modern minting anomalies ever found. In the coin collecting world, even slight variations in design can drastically impact a coin's value. Sometimes, subtle differences in font thickness, the shape of a letter, or the curvature of a number can reveal that a different die was used. These varieties are highly prized, especially when they're linked to a specific mint or limited production run. If researchers were to uncover that the 2070 penny used a previously unknown die pair, perhaps one meant for testing or rejected production, the rarity would multiply. It's also possible that the immense valuation of $252 million attached to the 2070 penny stems not just from its errors, but from the sheer mythology surrounding it. In the world of high-end collectibles, perception often equals value. my dears, to another fascinating journey into the hidden world of rare and extraordinary coins, where something as small as a penny can hold the value of a palace, where the most ordinary pocket change can become a global treasure worth hundreds of millions of dollars. We are diving into one of the most astonishing discoveries in modern numismatic history, the story of the 2019 1-cent Liberty coin, a coin whose face value is just 1 cent but whose rumored worth has reached an unimaginable $245 million because of its minting mistakes, hidden errors, and rare characteristics that make it one of the most valuable modern coins ever talked about. This story begins in 2019, a year not so long ago, yet one that has left behind a few mysteries that continue to captivate collectors and coin experts around the world. The 2019 Lincoln cent was minted in Denver, one of the most productive and technologically advanced facilities of the United States Mint. It was part of the familiar Lincoln Penny series that began in 1909 and still carries the portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, with the Union Shield design on the reverse, a design that symbolizes national unity and strength. To most people, it's just another penny, one of billions produced every year. But as we'll uncover in this deep dive, a few of these coins may have been struck with errors so extraordinary that they could redefine what we know about modern U.S. coinage. Now, what could possibly make a 2019 penny worth $245 million? At first glance, that number seems outrageous. But in the world of rare coins, such values often arise when a coin exhibits a combination of extreme rarity, multiple minting errors, unique characteristics, and perfect preservation. Sometimes, it only takes 1 or 2 examples of such a coin to exist for its value to skyrocket beyond comprehension. The key lies in understanding how something so small could have gone so wrong during production, and how those mistakes turned it into a priceless artifact. Let's begin by looking at what kind of minting errors could have occurred during the production of the 2019 Lincoln cent. Even with the most sophisticated machinery, the U.S. Mint is not immune to errors. These mistakes can happen for many reasons: mechanical malfunctions, misaligned dies, planchet contamination, or simple human oversight. When these errors are extreme enough and only a handful of coins display them, their rarity makes them highly desirable. One of the most famous and valuable types of mint errors is the doubled die error. This happens when the die used to strike the coin receives more than one impression of the design from the hub, slightly misaligned each time. When that die is then used to strike coins, those coins show a visible doubling of the letters, numbers, or parts of the design. In earlier decades, these errors were more common, but in modern times, they are exceedingly rare due to improved technology. That's why a doubled die error on a 2019 penny would be so shocking. It would mean that even with all the digital precision of modern minting, a mistake slipped through. Imagine discovering a 2019 penny where the date 2019 or the word Liberty appears doubled, or where "In God We Trust" has a shadowed effect, as if printed twice. This kind of coin would instantly be the focus of attention across the coin collecting world. Collectors, investors, and museums would all want to get their hands on it. The idea that such an error could occur in the 21st century would be almost unbelievable, and yet, it's precisely that kind of impossibility that drives collectors wild. Another fascinating possibility is that of an off-metal strike. This is when a coin is accidentally struck on a planchet meant for another denomination or another country's coin. The U.S. Mint sometimes produces coins for other nations, and it's not impossible that a blank planchet of different composition was accidentally fed into the presses striking Lincoln cents in 2019. For example, if a 2019 penny was struck on a dime planchet, it would appear smaller, lighter, and made of a different metal alloy. Or if it was struck on a foreign bronze or experimental aluminum planchet, the coin's appearance would immediately stand out as unusual. Collectors often test coins for such off-metal errors by weighing them. A normal 2019 penny weighs 2.5 grams and is made of copper-plated zinc. If a coin weighs more or less than that, it could be a sign of an off-metal strike or an experimental composition. A 2019 struck on a 3.11 gram copper planchet from pre-1982 material, for example, would be highly unusual. Only a few such errors have ever been documented in modern U.S. coinage, and when they are found, their value soars into the millions. The next area of fascination is the mint mark itself. The D Mint mark on the 2019 penny indicates it was made at the Denver Mint. In earlier decades, mint marks were punched by hand, leading to varieties such as repunched mint marks RPMs. Today, mint marks are part of the die's digital engraving, meaning that a repunched mint mark on a modern coin would suggest a major manufacturing anomaly, perhaps a misalignment during laser engraving or a transfer mistake in die creation. A 2019 D penny with a doubled or misaligned mint mark would be almost unheard of and would undoubtedly attract immense attention. There's also the intriguing possibility of a missing mint mark. Even though all Denver pennies should bear a D, a coin struck from a die missing the mint mark due to a plating flaw, grease-filled die, or incomplete engraving would stand out as a true rarity. Missing or partially missing mint marks are among the most desirable errors because they break the rules of the minting process. For example, the famous 1922 No D penny from Denver became one of the most iconic coins in U.S. history precisely because of such an anomaly. If a modern equivalent were discovered in the 2019 series, it would instantly become one of the most valuable coins of the 21st century. Another significant kind of error that could elevate a coin's value is the broad strike or off-center strike. This occurs when the coin is not properly centered in the press when struck, resulting in a distorted or incomplete design. Some off-center coins show only part of Lincoln's face or the shield design on the reverse, while others are missing large portions of text. The more dramatic the misalignment, the more valuable the coin becomes, especially if it still shows the date and mint mark clearly. Die cracks, cuds, and die clashes are also possibilities that could contribute to the legendary status of the 2019 D penny. A die crack appears as a raised line across the coin's surface, caused by a fracture in the striking die. A cud is a larger chunk of metal that fills part of the design, usually at the rim. A die clash occurs when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving traces of each design on the opposite die. These errors create visually striking and highly collectible coins, especially when they're large or unusually placed. Now, let's consider another angle: transitional or experimental compositions. There have been persistent rumors in the numismatic community that the U.S. Mint occasionally tests alternative metal compositions for pennies to reduce costs. If, during one of these tests, a few experimental planchets accidentally entered circulation, a 2019 D penny could exist with a completely different metallic makeup. A penny struck on an aluminum or nickel-based planchet, for example, would weigh differently and have a different color or sound when dropped. Discovering one would be like unearthing buried treasure, and that's precisely what makes such coins so valuable. But what truly makes the 2019 D penny so intriguing is not just the technical possibility of errors. It's the combination of myth, mystery, and rarity that drives collectors' imaginations. Modern coins aren't supposed to have these mistakes. The Mint's quality control is incredibly advanced, with digital imaging and laser-guided inspection systems designed to catch even the smallest flaw. For a major error coin to escape that process in 2019 would defy all expectations. That's why, if even a single coin exists with multiple dramatic errors, it would immediately be classified as one of the most significant minting anomalies of the century. Imagine this scenario. A single 2019 D penny is discovered with a combination of a double die, an off-metal strike, a missing mint mark, and an obverse/reverse die clash. It would be an impossible combination, one that should never exist. Yet, if such a coin were real, its story would spread like wildfire. Collectors, grading companies, and even the Mint itself would scramble to study it. It would be featured in coin journals, online auctions, and documentaries. The coin would cease to be just a collectible. It would become a historical artifact. Let's also talk about condition, one of the biggest factors in determining a coin's final value. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with MS 70 representing perfection under magnification.